was born in the Northern California.
Mentioning the TNTs, so the Tuesday Night Twilights is actually a series of local Criterium training races that have been going on in the Santa Rosa area for well over 30 years. So again, kind of hearkening back to Dave's Bike Sport and kind of those older bike shops from, the 80s and 90s, there was a group of dedicated people that found a corner of Santa Rosa that was not too, busy on Tuesday evenings. And we threw some cones out and basically started a, Criterium series. And it has been going on now for, like I said, over 30 years, which is great. Previously, it was kind of run by an impromptu board of people from kind of all the different teams and groups in the area. But as I had mentioned, some of those other teams have kind of gotten smaller and people have retired from kind of racing and riding fast. And so we felt that it was up to us as kind of the group that, had the most folks that were out racing and riding and, wanting to really find opportunities to give back to the community, right? And so the Red Peloton made the decision to kind of take over ownership of those Tuesday Night Twilights. And so for 10 Tuesday nights between April and September, we host at the fairgrounds the TNTs. And so it's a closed course environment, no cars. We cone things off. We have an A, B, and C level race, so kind of different speeds, as well as a mentoring race with some of our own riders who have years and years of experience, either coaching or racing, working as mentors to help folks that come out who really have never raced before and want to try it, or, used to race and are kind of getting back into it. So it's just really a really fun grassroots style environment where, we're hoping to kind of expand and make it more of kind of a spectator friendly family type environment where folks can come down to the fairgrounds, set up their picnics, and watch their local friends and racers go battle each other on Tuesday nights. And it's interesting because although it's kind of a small group and a shorter race, they're heralded as being integral in some of our top professional cyclists' training regimens. So regularly we see Tyler Williams and Luke Lamperti out there. Sam Bassetti a few years ago, attributed the TNTs to his success as a pro rider on the KHS squad.
Awesome. So yes, Sam Boardman was out there from Legion.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, you get some pretty impressive people will show up there for sure.
Yeah, it's you never know who's going to show up, and it's always just real good fun. And again, we have a fairly impressive and big group of local riders, right? And so it's nice to just have an area and a time designated for everyone to kind of come out and race each other, but then all hang out and enjoy each other's company after that. So it's a good time. And again, we want to keep that alive and well in Santa Rosa, and the juniors race for free. And this year women's racing will be free as well, because we're trying to get more women racers to feel comfortable and come out and, take another look at Criterium and road racing as an option.
Yeah, I wanted to reinforce that because Amber Smolik and I were talking about that in the last episode, about how we just encouraging people to get out there and try racing. I think it's one of those things that people get it in their heads. It's so intimidating. But the TNTs in particular offer a really great opportunity to just the mentor race. It's not even really a race. It's more you're going around the course, just getting, this is what it's like to be in a group of people. This is what's like, and Mike's there giving tips on, hey, this is how you be safe. This is how you go around a corner. Let's try this now. It's super safe and comfortable way to go around that course and check it out and see if you might like to step up to the C race. Since I really want to encourage people to give it a try.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, again, it's a fun community thing. It's great to connect with people that, you might not see on a regular basis. And again, it's the love of the bike that brings us all together, and, supporting that and being in that environment's always fun. Even throughout the summer, like we throw up the sprinklers, and we engage all the local bike shops who bring out the prizes for each of the races, rotating through the night. So it is, definitely supported by a lot of our community.
And yeah, just one, I definitely want to call it. I know all the bike shops. There's so many great bike shops here in town, and they all support it. It is fun. You get to see those pros. I mean, I remember one of my very first someone saying, "Oh, that's Tyler Williams," and getting to see these pros out there racing against your friends. That's really cool. I wanted to mention that's how I got back into racing. I was into riding with the Santa Rosa Cycling Club. I saw a friend of mine post on Craig Tyke from high school that he had done a Criterium on Strava, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Craig's racing!" I'm like, that night I looked up Criterium near me or whatever, something, and TNTs were the next week. I went out there and got dropped hard in the C race, and a little humble pie, but I was like, oh my gosh, I that night I got my USA license again, and and that's when I was like, okay, that's a few months later I reached out to start joining Red Peloton. So it's a great resource. So and
definitely
cool
fun
continuing that.
But
let's see. I wanted to get, kind of taking that to the next level of which the TNT is I wanted to mention that it's super fun. I can ride my bike to it on a Tuesday night. That's awesome for the local riders, but there's people that'll come over from Sacramento, up from San Jose, and even farther to compete in it. So it's got some pretty cool people showing up, some fast riders.
Yeah, for sure. And now with the train, staying open a little later, there's been a few folks from like Marin area that take the train up and then can cut over through town. So that's another option as well.
Super cool. Expanding out from that, give me your perspective on the Northern California racing scene. What's happening? What are the things you're excited about?
Excited that there's still a lot of racing, a lot of people that are dedicated, right? We just we're in February, so racing's really just kind of getting kicked off, but there's definitely a dedicated group with Larry Nolan and the folks that put on the Early Birds. Those are a similar series, right, where it's a bit of a training exercise. There's 5 weekends where really the mentors from various teams, so like Mike and I went down one weekend and volunteered to really, provide perspective and mentorship, and essentially they go through practicing sprinting, practicing cornering, what to expect in different situations, right? And kind of teaching you how to really handle a criterium, and in some instances things that cross over with road racing, right? That's great. Velo Promo is the kind of biggest cycling race event organizer, right? So back in the day, USA Cycling would rely on clubs and teams to host races. And so, through the 90s and 2000s, that was great with kind of, drug scandals and the fall of USA, and the cycling scene in general, right? There became the shift in a reduction of teams putting on their own races and relying more on kind of the race promotion companies to do it, right? And like Bob at Velo Promo, he's like, I'm not getting rich doing this. I do it for the love of the sport, but he's interested in retiring in the next few years, right? And so that's kind of concerning, considering he has, the majority of the races on the calendar, and it takes a lot to put on a race, right? Especially a road race or a race where you need to close down the streets. You have to get your permits and talk to the city and the county and the municipalities associated with closing off streets, and they have to have, a traffic plan and how much signage are you going to put up, and safety, and how are you going to block off streets to ensure cars aren't going to get onto the course for insurance purposes. They have to work with, fire and EMT and make sure you have medical people there. You got to work with the fire or police departments, right? A lot of times they pay police officers on their days off to come and, kind of man a busy corner and keep people from freaking out that the road's closed, right? Things like that. And
right.
In addition to that, right, all the volunteers throughout the day that, either before the race or after the race set up all the cones and barricades, as well as the people volunteering throughout the day to corner marshal and flag and make sure if there's a crash, they're on the radio saying, hey, we got a crash in turn 4, right? So it is a tremendous amount of production to put on these races. And so I'm excited that there are still races. We have plenty of options. I'm a little nervous, in the next few years. So certainly that's one of the things that, is on our agenda is how do we put on a race, in our area to help kind of continue to give back to the broader race group in California and keep racing alive and, take the onus upon ourselves to really kind of put together a race like that so that, other people can come up and enjoy that. Right. And
right.
It's pretty expensive, right? So we are always looking for the sponsors and people that are dedicated to cycling to help out with that. But really beyond that, it's also, like you had mentioned previously, there's a lot of kind of different and growing areas of cycling. So like gravel and the grasshoppers are certainly something that has taken off in the last few years. And between the Bike Monkey events and the Grasshopper Adventure Series, it feels like the North Bay is really kind of an epicenter in California for a lot of those gravel events. And it's interesting, it just kind of happened that, Miguel and Carlos are both local to the area here and, have been putting on great events. Like Miguel's been putting on hoppers since the late 80s, right? So
oh wow, I didn't realize it's been around that long.
Yeah, right. So it's interesting, it's not necessarily new, right? The whole throw drop bars on your mountain bike and go adventure for hours on end, but the fact that it is becoming more mainstream and it's another option for people looking to kind of get off the road and not necessarily be battling traffic. It's a little safer in that regard, but again, it's another area, another opportunity. It's really fun if you like doing those. I know my strengths. I'm kind of more of a short distance guy, right? So
right.
When I go out I've done a couple hoppers, and it's always a good reminder, like, oh yeah, climbing 5,000 feet and 80 miles is not my strength.
Right.
But that's super fun and exciting. And, speaking of Carlos and Bike Monkey, they host the Gran Fondo, right? And Fondos have actually kind of tapered off over the years, right? They were really big in kind of the 2010s and, almost to the extent that, everyone had a Fondo at one point or another. And while the community and the environment associated with the Fondo, where pretty much everyone shows up together, like beginners and pros, and you all go out at the same time.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's kind of the way gravel has evolved, right? And so I'm really excited that the Growler route within Levi's Gran Fondo is now a actual race, whereas previously it was just one of the longer, harder routes available in that Fondo. It's now an actual road race. And the term road's a little loose, right? Because Sonoma County is a little rough around the edges, right? We know that, not every road is beautifully paved and smooth, but that gives it a little character, right? And so last year was the first year that they made it an actual race, and got quite a bit of buzz, throughout both the gravel side and the Fondo world, as well as the road racing scene, right? There's not any more big road races in America. And so this year they have some new sponsors. The purse is up to $156,000 spread between the top 10 male pros and female pros. And so that makes it the richest purse in all of American cycling now. Pete Stetina said that route, with the amount of money that is, available now, makes it the single hardest one-day road race in America, right? So that's super exciting.
Well, and we were talking about earlier before we started recording about how, there was that great article in the Press Democrat about the Levi's Gran Fondo, and this is what we need to do is think differently to come up with new ideas to get excitement in the sport, and that's awesome that they're really setting the bar on that event. And I think it's a good example for the rest of us to get creative we have to get creative to bring excitement to the sport.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, people tend to need new things and get bored with stuff quickly, right? So it's definitely a good reminder for criteriums and road racing, right? Like, how do we keep it fresh? How do we do better? For groups like us, how do we keep people coming back and keep them stoked on riding and, have that excitement? And I think, they're doing a really great job. And, I actually do work for Carlos and Bike Monkey on the side as well from my standard day job, and also helping with Red Peloton. So like I said, I know my strengths, right? And I don't like the distance riding, but when I go work for the event itself, right, I'm involved and see the excitement and see the draw. It's really awesome. And, the Gran Fondo is actually tremendous, and it creates its own energy, right? Like when you're at the starting line with 2,000 other people, and there's all these routes and families and younger folks and older people, and everyone's just there really waiting to have an awesome time and go ride the beautiful roads, all through Sonoma County. It's intoxicating, right? You're just like, oh my gosh, like I can feel the excitement, and it's so crazy. And this year, actually, the last 3 hours of the Growler route is going to be televised on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that.
So that's cool. Super exciting, because again, right, like for the folks that can't travel out, and there's not any televised cycling in the United States, right?
Yeah.
So again, Carlos and the team are really pushing to get this out there and make it accessible to many different people.
Right. Oh, totally. And I just want to say, as someone who's ridden all the different local rides that go out this different centuries, and Levi's, it has always been one of my favorites, just because that mass start, there's just something so, the others you'll roll out in a certain time frame, but that mass start is just always so fun. And they do really take the organization to a different level. You'll have those trackers where I'll be finishing and they'll be announcing, they don't do it for everyone because there's the big group, but I've had them say, oh, announce your names, you're coming in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just really well done. And the fact that they keep raising the bar is just, that's awesome. And those are the types of things, that's the type of energy you need to infuse excitement in the sport. And it shows you can. I mean, with Red Peloton, you're putting energy into these programs, and it is creating more energy. So it's great to see all that happening.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, with just better activation on our website and, leveraging our social media more, we can only go up and share what we are doing more and share it to a broader audience, and hopefully there's other groups out there too that, can see that and do it as well. And hopefully we can keep racing and cycling alive in the United States and kind of keep it going, right? Because it's a great sport, beyond the impact to your pocketbook. Really the only the only result of riding a ton is you get healthy, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure. Well, and it's an awesome sport. It's going to keep going, but let's come up with ideas to keep it going even in more exciting ways.
mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's covered most of what I wanted to cover. Was there anything else you wanted to say or talk about?
No, yeah, most of my racing and whatnot's been mid-pack, right? Someone's got to be mid-pack for the others to excel and rate themselves against.
Oh
So
wait, no, I did want to talk about, because we were talking about that one picture earlier, and yeah, I wanted to, because I think that's a great example of. I love that you're, and I think it reflects how involved and invested you are in not just riding your bike, but giving back to the community and making a difference in the cycling community. Talk to me about that race where you were, working for the U23 rider, right?
oh yeah. So, and kind of at this point in my career, kind of like Brian Larson alluded to, right? At a certain point, you're not going to go pro. So what is it that you're focusing on? What is your next goal? What are you doing? Right. And I learned pretty quick, right, that I have done as well as I've done based on, my drive and commitment, not my natural ability and talent, because that was pretty lacking. But at this point, right, with our U23 racers, it is tremendously fun and rewarding now, knowing what I know and being able to put in the hours that I can and really leveraging my race experience to just go ride for the young guys, right? And so, one of the pictures I sent over is a rider, Finn Thompson, who rode for us for a year and then went on to Volley Factory, continued on for a bit. And he's living in France now, doing some riding and racing out there. But we got into, that was the Land Park P123 race. And we put 5 or 6 folks into that race. So between myself and Mike and Kyle, some of the older guys who are, Cat 3 and 2, and then we also had the majority of our U23 racers in that race. And obviously, it's a pro race, right? So it's an hour of really fast, really intense riding, and I'm not fit enough to do that. But what I am fit enough to do is go chase people or cover a break, or in that instant, right, there was a separation in the field and Finn came up and was like, Cole, get me up there, right? So immediately I'm like, here we go, the
That's cool.
adrenaline spikes and put my head down and basically just bury myself for a couple minutes and get Finn up to the lead group, right? And as one of the smaller teams, like with Red Peloton, and really the way we're structured, right, our riders, the whole goal is to help them cat up and then move on to other teams, right? So we don't always have a whole team of cat 1s and 2s, right? So the whole plan is to just, for Mike and Kyle and I and some of our other kind of masters riders, is really just to be fit enough to go help and guide. And in those instances, right, it's tremendously fun to put in my 20 minutes of all out, inside out effort. And then I pull the chute, pull off. And in that particular race, Finn, I believe he was second, right? So
Nice.
He got up, stayed in the split. He had the energy and wherewithal to kind of stay with that front group and then sprinted it out. But, I felt tremendously proud to be like, all right, Finn called on me and I was there, right? Like I couldn't give him his lead out, but I helped him at that point in that race, and that made all the difference, right? Because
Yeah.
I think that was the last race that he needed points for his Cat 1 upgrade. So, to get on the podium, and it was a huge group, so that was enough points to help him get into Cat 1 so that he could actually go start guest riding and go down to Redlands and stuff like that, right? And do those resume building races. So just being, essentially a part of the ladder that helped Finn, work through his career. I love that, right? And so that's, at this point, I try to figure out how best to kind of set up my training, you know, and it's like, all right, I got to be able to hang with, you know, P1, 2, 3 or 3, 2 or 3, 4 races so that, you know, the new guys on the team that are kind of working their way up, I can go sit in the race with them and I can shepherd them around. I can, you know, say, hey, I'm out of matches, but that's the group you want to be in. So go stay with them, play it cool, save your matches, stick with them. And then I, you know, pull off and scream from the sidelines. So it's been tremendously nice to almost come full circle, right? Like have that experience when I was back at Specialized and Fox and racing and relying on support and trying to learn from others. And now I'm at a point where, you know, I can kind of turn around and give that back, you know, and work and help them do better and get faster is super rewarding and, you know, really exciting.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And you set a great example, whether it's, you know, everything you do for Red Peloton or out on the bike, is that's these little things that, you know, we do can make a huge difference. Like you helped him just get that one extra notch up to get his get Cat 1, or someone just showing up to watch the TNTs, just being an extra body out there supporting, or someone volunteering at a corner to watch, and it's fun. You get to watch the races, or just showing up to race and expand the Peloton, especially if it's women or juniors, for free. So yeah, it's a great example. And I would just want to thank you for everything you do for Red Peloton. You're awesome as president, and just everything you do out there to support the cycling community. Thank you. Great stuff.
No problem at all. It's definitely worth it. And, you know, it's exciting, and I like to see the changes and the new things that we're doing, and, you know, trying to make it better and just enable more people to engage. That's the goal.
Yeah, this life drifts like waves to Lord's secret shores. Yeah, this life drifts like waves